You're listening to the 95 Podcast from the team at 95 Network, where we host conversations specifically designed to support leaders in small and mid-sized churches.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the 95 Podcast. This is Dale Sellers, Executive Director, and we are so glad you joined us today. I just finished a conference this past week in upstate New York. Had a really good attendance at the Soul Care Essentials Conference. We did two on Friday. We did one at 9 in the morning. We did one at 6 o'clock in the evening, and then we did another one the next day in Green, New York for pastors, and it was just, all of them just went so well. The response has been great. Got some great emails back from it. And one of the things that happened at this conference was I got to meet a new friend. We're going to introduce you to Josh Clink. And Josh is there doing something very specific that I thought would be helpful for us today. And so I want to just kind of get to know him, share his story with you guys, and hopefully connect you with him as well. But first of all, Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a nice mid-level weather-wise day in upstate New York, so I can't complain.
Did it snow on Sunday?
It did, yeah.
Oh,
It was kind of a messy snow, but it's actually kind of melted away by now, so
Well, I
we're not
was
doing too
there.
bad.
I flew out on Sunday, and there was not even any snow in the forecast. It was light rain, but I noticed that as I was flying back home, I looked back and it was like the whole upstate was covered in snow. I'm going, well, I'm glad we got out of there when we did.
That's right. You must have packed some nice weather when you came up from the south, and then once you left, it left with you.
It was really bizarre because you guys have had really a difficult winter there up until this point, and
hmm
then we had this little break, and that's when we had the conferences, and then it snowed the day we left. I thought that was kind of cool. And one thing some of our listeners may know, if you've never been to upstate New York, it's just gorgeous. It's like driving through Kentucky or Tennessee. It's got the hills and lots of farms, and it's just the coolest thing in the world. And one of the other things that's really cool for me is I was there one year when it had snowed 14 inches, and I had to drive from upstate New York over to Connecticut, and I kept spotting deer because they were in the snow up eating. And so it was like, wow, this place is great. And so anyway, you were with us, and you share a little bit about why you were there. What was the purpose of you joining us that day?
So it is kind of twofold. I am a pastor at FBC Afton, which is about 30 minutes from Green. And so I was there just for my own soul care, but I also am currently on staff with an organization called Anchored Hope Virtual Counseling. And so we're a team of 44 biblical counselors. We use the terminology clinically informed biblical counselors. So our foundation is scripture. But we do take clinical data, clinical information, and see how that's a common grace that we can still use and utilize in our counseling. And so I was there to kind of connect with you, with the 95 Network, with the Northeast Collaborative, which you were partnering with, and it was kind of organizing at NEC. And so I was there to just get this resource of virtual counseling into, these networks' hands, but also with the people who were coming there looking for soul care. Again, we had met several pastors, ministry leaders, people who are serving in churches, and are understanding the vital importance, the need for soul care for their own selves, and also for just being able to care well for the people in these churches. And so I came to just get the ministry of Anchored Hope out there as a resource to be able to help foster and cultivate soul care for those attending and those who had relationships with other people.
Cool. Well, I want to learn more about Anchor Hope. Before we do, kind of tell us your story a little bit. So you're pastoring, so tell us kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually grew up in Green, so where the second day, the
Green,
Saturday part of
Green,
the
Green, New York.
Green, New York.
Yeah.
Yes, Green, New York,
Yeah.
in the upstate dairy farmland of upstate New York. And so didn't grow up in church. I kind of laugh now being a pastor. My dad, he doesn't enjoy this story, but he's okay with me telling it. But I used to be horrible trying to get to go to Christmas Eve service. It was the only time of year we went to church.
Okay.
But I would just gripe, complain, whine, drag my feet, do everything I could to not have to go to Christmas Eve service. And one year my dad to try to convince me to go, said, listen, you can get in the car and we can go to Christmas Eve service tonight. And you can stop whining about it, or I can start taking you to church every Sunday. I was the first one in the car that night. I was ready to go. And so I was not about to go to church every Sunday, but now I'm a pastor. So God is funny in the way he works. But yeah, in high school, I actually started going to a youth group at the church, Berean Bible Church, that hosted the
Mhm.
Saturday part of the Essentials Conference there,
Yep.
and got saved through their youth ministry in high school. Went off to college thinking, that was fun. That was a cool season of life, getting to, go to church and be a part of a youth group. But that stage of life is over. But God, in His grace, connected me with some upperclassmen in college who were like, Josh, this isn't just a season. Like you are, you are lifelong. You are in,
Hmm.
and they really started mentoring me and discipling me, and got involved in campus ministry as a result. And then met my wife in college through the Navigators for Christ at SUNY New Paltz. It's a state university in New York, down in the Hudson Valley region of New York. And we were involved in the Navigators our last couple of years of college, student leadership wise. And I was kind of figuring out what I want to do, in college. I was shifting majors, and there was a pastor who was planting a church there, and I was, serving alongside him, and he had been investing in me, and he actually was like, have you ever considered full-time ministry? And I hadn't, but it just all of a sudden was like a light bulb. It just clicked, made sense. And so I was searching. I don't even know how I found this page, but I was searching online for seminary degrees and found biblical counseling. And the description on the page when I found it online was like, yes, like that's basically like what I'm kind of doing with the Navigators. I'm kind of, providing counsel to some of my peers as a student. But yeah, so decided to look for a seminary that offered biblical counseling. And after my wife Stephanie and I got married in 2014, we went down to North Carolina to get our master's in biblical counseling at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary. My second year there, Berean actually connected me to the pastor at the time here in Afton. And the pastor here in Afton was looking for an associate who could kind of help take some of the counseling load off of him and also take on some discipleship responsibilities. So I came here in November of 2015, or excuse me, 2016, and November of 2016. And then he ended up resigning in February of 2018. And I stepped into kind of the lead role at that time, and have been in this position here at Afton since then. But late last year, really started to kind of feel this draw, this pull back toward counseling. And that's how I got reconnected with Anchored Hope, and or not reconnected. I got initially connected with Anchored Hope and onboarded with them, and started getting to serve in this ministry capacity as well, to churches, around the globe, missionaries, Christians, believers around the globe, through this virtual platform. So that's my story, a little bit of where I've been and how I'm here.
And how old are you?
I am 30. How old am I? Wow, 30. I'll turn 33 this month. 33 this month.
I can tell you've been pastoring for a while. You don't even know how old you are.
Yeah.
So what's it like? You didn't go to school to be a pastor or to be a lead
hmm
pastor. You
hmm
came there to serve in your sweet spot, which is counseling, and that's where your passion lies. The other pastor left. Did he leave under good circumstances or tough circumstances? What was that situation?
Yeah, more difficult circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a moral failure.
And so you're there as the associate counseling pastor. He has a moral failure, and boom, now you're lead pastor.
Right. Yep.
What was that like for you? And then I'll ask you a follow-up question to that. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's definitely been tough. I'm grateful both the church that I got ordained by down in North Carolina, and some professors at seminary. They became just vital resources for me during that time. And then also, relationships with other pastors in the area here. Justin over at Berean has been a good mentor. I got friends at a couple other churches that have been, just really vital resources that help keep this sense of being on an island. And then there's a couple guys in the church who kind of served alongside them, and they ended up kind of stepping up into elder roles for that season and that time. And so it was a lot. Yeah, it was challenging, tough to kind of even wrap my mind around it. In a lot of ways, it was, on the job learning. Didn't have, formal preaching training, so had to kind of take some homiletics uh, books and classes while actively preaching, asked people for feedback on sermons. Some people were all too willing to give
I'm sure they were.
feedback on the sermons.
So basically,
Uh,
what you did was you fired, readied, and then aimed.
that's right. That's exactly right. That's a good way to describe it. Yep. So that side of it was definitely challenging. But I definitely leaned into, the biblical idea of that God had led me here for a time such as this.
Hmm.
I definitely felt in that season, especially with kind of just the way that everything happened with the senior pastor at the time, that the church really needed a counselor more than a preacher. And so I was able to learn how to preach while being able to counsel in the way that I shepherded. And again, it was, heavily dependent on the wisdom, support, guidance, encouragement of many other people that God had placed in my life presently and from kind of my time at seminary. And the idea of I thank my God upon my remembrance of every remembrance of you. Like those individuals come to mind
But they do.
when I think of them, because they were vital in that season. And you want to talk about, the need for humility and leadership in the church and pastoral leadership especially. You want to talk about not having any clue about what to do. I remember our first kind of meeting as a church after that happened. He had resigned on a Friday. He was supposed to preach that Sunday, so I'm preaching on Sunday now. And
Had you preached any before?
I had a
Okay,
handful of
so
sermons. Yeah, yeah.
you'd already had a little experience. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so after service, I informed the church kind of what had happened. Didn't go into, exceptional detail. And then said that we're going to have a prayer meeting instead of our typical Sunday school hour, our life group hour after service. And we're just all going to gather in the room and we're going to pray. And I started off that prayer meeting saying, listen, I don't know what tomorrow is going to hold. I don't know what the next week's going to look like. I don't know anything, but this is why we're here. We're here to pray. And so we did that. And yeah, it was a humbling experience for sure, but it was, a very stretching and growing experience.
Oh,
I learned so much
I'm sure
that
you did.
you don't get in a seminary classroom.
How many folks are you talking about as far as what's the size of your church?
We're a church of about 50 to 60.
Okay, so here you are, you're helping to lead this church of about 50 or 60, and you become lead pastor. So
Mhm.
did you say your wife's name is Stephanie? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, Stephanie.
Okay,
Yep.
so how's Stephanie been in all this?
It's funny. It was like a slow draw. We joke now. She had said that she never wanted to be a pastor's wife.
Mhm.
We end up at a church. It's just associate pastor's wife, so it's not as bad.
Yeah, not a
And
big
so
deal.
she compromised there, and then that happens, and now I'm the kind of lead pastor role, and now she's a lead pastor's wife, and she's like, "How did this happen?" So it's comical now, but it definitely was, a weight on her as well. I've been, so if I did not have Stephanie as my wife, like there's 0% chance that I would be in ministry or survive in ministry. I would be a wreck. I'd be curled up in a ball in a corner somewhere. She's got her master's degree in counseling as well. And so those who have been blessed through my ministry have been blessed beat by her because she counsels me on a
Yes,
regular
sir.
basis, keeps me sane, gives me just a really healthy perspective on things, is a wise sounding board, knows the scripture incredibly well, and knows how to wisely apply it and use it in the right areas. And so yeah, so I'm super thankful for her, super grateful for her. But it was a challenge too. Again, there's fair or not. People look at the pastor's wife in a lot of ways, and
Mhm.
when she has a seminary degree, I think that also adds an extra level of expectation placed upon her. And so um, she's been pulled in a lot of different directions, and it's been challenging on her in a lot of different ways as well. And there's familial side of things, personal side of things, we had even before that happened, but through that time, had been struggling with fertility issues, and so there's the physical side of that, and that continues to kind of carry on into just present day, and so it's just a lot. It's a lot, but again, she would probably say like me that God has stripped us down. We've seen his sovereignty through it, and we've both grown, learned much, and are super grateful for the experience God has given us in his presence through it all, up to where we're at today.
Does Stephanie have anyone she talks to as far as helping her? I know she does counseling, but who does she go to?
Mhm.
Hopefully you don't say you.
No, she knows to look for better counsel than that, better wisdom. No, probably the person who has been closest to her. She's got several ladies that she's friends with in the church, but there's one lady individual. Her name's Carol. She's been like a mentor to Stephanie in a lot of ways. Her and her husband John are just super faithful servants in the church, like the kind of people that you were just drawn toward. Super grateful that God puts in your life, and so Carol's become like a mentor to Stephanie in a lot of ways. They get together, almost weekly, if they're able to. Sometimes they'll be going through a specific study. Sometimes they're like, can we just get together, have coffee, pray, talk,
Good.
and kind of do life together? And she's a mentor, but also just a really close friend for Stephanie. So she's been really vital and a huge blessing, huge kindness of God in Stephanie's life for sure.
Okay, so how long have you been pastor over total time wise now?
A little over 7 years. It was
Okay,
November 2016, so
and
seven
then the
years, a couple
pandemic
months.
came, and then
And
you
then
deal with you deal with the pandemic,
COVID.
man. So when you think
That's
back
right.
to leading the church that you did not know you were going to lead, that you did not even weren't even prepared for, because that wasn't what you're pursuing. What's been your lowest low? What's been the most difficult thing you've had to deal with?
Yeah, I've always been kind of a tunnel vision type person.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's beneficial, other times it's problematic. I'll get honed in on a project and I will just not be able to put it down until I get that project done.
Hmm.
I like a puzzle and things like that. So 2020 was kind of like that for me. Like all of 2020, it was just tunnel vision. I was, this is just life. This is what's happening. Everyone's dealing with it. You're no different. Just kind of keep your head down and your feet plowing forward. And we did. And so I think throughout 2020, we were able to navigate that really well. And then 2021 came. And then I just started to realize I had, people from the church and also the community coming with just real genuine things. People were losing members of their family, loved ones were dying. People were struggling with, addictions,
Mm.
like material and immaterial addictions. People were, having abusive family situations, abandonment. People were coming with, broken families, marriages that were in conflict, and all sorts of things. And initially, when people were coming with me with these just heavy problems, I just kind of felt nothing.
Hmm.
It started as like this just blank feeling. I had no sympathy, had no sadness, had no compassion. Out of a sense of obligation, I was trying to kind of bear their burdens, but there was no actual like emotional capacity being given for those individuals. But then slowly, as it continued to happen throughout 2021, I noticed that it went from just that blankness to bitterness. Someone would come to me with a problem, as they should, and
Hmm.
I would feel internally frustrated at them. I would feel burdened. I would feel annoyed, irritated, bothered that they decided to come to me and bring just another problem, as if like I don't have enough problems to deal with. That's what my mind was saying. That's the way I was feeling about
Oh,
things.
dude, you're
Like
talking
I'm
you're talking to all of us. Okay, so don't feel judged.
That's right. And so like that was just where my head was at. And so that was kind of like the lowest point for me probably, coming out of COVID, kind of getting through that tunnel vision of 2020, and then 2021 it didn't just go away and everything, was better. And then I started to just kind of feel that way, went from numb to angry toward people.
Mm.
And so, I fortunately, again, kind of in my past as well, like that relationship, the connections I still had from seminary. I knew a counseling professor from
Okay.
seminary. So I reached out to him. I had that connection, that resource available to me. And so we met for counseling for a period of time to deal with what he basically described as compassion fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
where we are limited and we have to come to accept and understand our limitations. It's part of being fallen humans. And that is why Jesus is so vital because he is unlimited. He is
Yes.
an infinite God. And so that's why we are drawn to Christ and we are drawing others to Christ. And so, in my limited capacity, I was tapped out. I had no compassion left to give. I was tired of trying to be compassionate toward people, and when people were coming with struggles, I just didn't feel like I had anything left. And so I started to then sinfully, react toward them
Mm.
because of that and blame them for my problems instead of actually being able to tap back into, and kind of tying into the soul care theme that you started with. I was doing ministry for Jesus, but not from Jesus,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so
Yep.
that was kind of the same idea that he had to reorient my mind and my heart. And so we met for an intense season to kind of deal with that and address through that. And then ongoing, he paired me up with the pastor of the church that ordained me down there. And actually, still today, about once a month, we'll
Good.
have a meeting, and sometimes it'll be uh, talking about questions that I'm having with ministry. Sometimes it'll be praying together about burdens of ministry. Sometimes he'll just be sharing what's going on with his life and ways I can be praying for him. Other times it's just talking about personal life and things that are going on. And we're actually going through this book that would actually be a good resource related to soul care. It's called The Common Rule by Justin Early.
Mm-hmm.
And it right off the bat, it talks about framing your days in prayer, and then the need for meals with others, and having a regular Sabbath. So
What do you know? What
really,
do you know?
really good resource coming out of the seminar that we met at. But yeah, so he became just a really I use this term kind of tongue in cheek a little bit, but a spiritual formation guru for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's been really helpful in that and been a huge resource. And that kind of brought me out of that pit, that low point in 2020, and
How
kind of
long did
set
that
me on
take
the
when you
direction.
from the time you bottomed out, you recognize you bottomed out, you reach out for help?
Mm.
How much time? And again, you're still working through it, but there was a point where you started feeling like you recovered. How long did that take?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to say like a definite time,
Yeah,
but it
and
definitely.
it's not a hard line. I understand.
Yeah. It definitely, there were some kind of short-term, like immediate things that started to just like my head started to see these things going through the counseling. So a few months through the counseling, like certain things started to click, but kind of developing that long-term habit of spiritual formation, of doing ministry from Jesus rather than
Mm-hmm.
for Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
That's been definitely an ongoing process. I'd say really kind of last year, and I think that's part of what aligned with this season of counseling for me, of kind of going through that. And throughout last year it started to kind of be this realization of what I'm kind of wired for, and what I'm
Mm-hmm.
drawn toward, and that sense of oughtness, and I think that's kind of what led me into getting into more of the counseling part of the ministry. And so I'd say probably, yeah, at least 2 years. It was like a
Wow.
two year process, kind of a gradual um, upward trend.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's again, and I don't want to misrepresent here. It's not like over those 2 years, all of a sudden, all those problems just started going
No,
away.
they
But it
don't
was
go
the
away.
reality of right of as the problems came,
Yeah.
I felt like I had the resources and the infrastructure to not hit that bottom out point that I did in
Sure.
2021.
Well, see, the reason I asked this is because a lot of us see you had to do this. You're still in the fire. You still got to preach
Right.
Sunday. You still got to keep counseling. You still got to work with people. You can't just stop. You can't just
Hmm.
quit. And I
Hmm.
think I get encouragement today because you're so young and you've already figured this out. Whereas most of us my age, because I'm double your age, uh, we're told we're supposed to grin and bear it and get through it, and
Hmm.
God expects us to do it, and that's just all hogwash, But we didn't
Yeah.
know we could get help. We didn't know we could get counseling, which is, we're going to go in just a second with this. Let's do this. Let's take a short break, and then I want to come and ask you the opposite question of what I just asked you. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Back here with Josh, and just asked him to just what was your lowest low? What's been your highest high in this unexpected pastoral role?
Hmm.
Has there
Yeah,
been
it's
one?
no, ministry is definitely I think Satan wants to always just get you to get fixated on the lows, right? So it's always
Yep.
easier to I can name off the lows much quicker
Hmm.
than I can name off the
That's why I
highs.
asked that question.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But it's definitely when you boil down, there's always this joke, right? Ministry would be great if it weren't for the people, but
Hmm.
ministry would also be miserable if it weren't for the people.
Yeah.
Because what reason would you have for ministry, right?
Hmm.
I think of it's not so much the organizational uh, you know, success, for lack of a better term, that is the rewarding side of it. It's because we're not here to build great organizations, right? Like all of it's going to be chaff in the end, and so
Hmm.
it's at the end of the day, it's the eternal reward is the
Hmm.
people, and so yeah, the highest high has been, I would say, just um the growth that I've seen from specific individuals. Paired with that is the relationships that are made with those individuals. And yeah, I mean, unpleasant and un enjoyable in the moment, but it's when sin is being brought to light and the gospel is being applied to people's lives, that you're seeing you know the gospel
Life
come,
change.
yeah, exactly. You've seen life change, right? And so so there's a handful, like out of a broken family, there's a mother and her son that I've seen that are closer to the Lord than
Hmm.
they've been in my entire 7 years here,
Yeah.
and seeing them hunger for God and want more of God and be diving into His Word, and you're seeing the fruit of their life coming out. I think of those two elders that I mentioned before,
Yeah.
two guys who have become incredibly close to me, incredibly influential to me, have been just incredible friends, and so I'm so thankful. It's been such a high point to have them become friends. I mentioned seeing Stephanie and her
Hmm.
friendship with Carol.
Yep.
That has been such an incredible high, and again, even her husband John, he's a good friend. He's a friend for life. And we're going skiing next Monday, so hopefully we'll have some snow to do that. But that'll be an incredible high to an incredible low, but then it'll be an incredible high again. But no, we'll enjoy that. And so that friendship's been good. And you made this point actually at the conference about being friends with younger people. I
Hmm.
think John's retired, so we're clearly at different stages of life, but I'd
Hmm.
consider him an incredibly close friend. And then I have a young guy who I try to work out with. He's 21, and I can't keep up with him anymore. But although my body's sore from the time we spend together, I enjoy the time that we get to spend together. And we were even just talking last week. He was talking about how he kind of had a bit of a breakthrough through a conversation that we were having. Him, his girlfriend, my wife, and I were having dinner, and we were just talking about some of his experience in church, both here, and then he had lived in Colorado for a short while and had a different church experience there. And just talking through that, he was talked about having just this breakthrough about his relationship with God, and kind of seeing that closer
Yep.
relationship just blossom. And so yeah, those are the highs. Those are the highest highs. There are more,
Yeah.
and more that I don't even know about. Again,
Sure.
there's just so many people who are just a refreshing cold drink of water,
Hmm.
are just gifted encouragers who just know to speak life and kindness and love to you in
Yep.
the most vital of moments. And those are highs. Those are definite highs that will always resonate.
The reason I wanted you to have this opening the way you did because this gives you credibility to do what you do with Anchor, because you're in the midst of the fire, as we said earlier. You do this. One of the things
Mhm.
that has helped me as I lead 95 Network is the fact that I actually pastored a small church, and it was difficult. And in fact, it ended up closing. We
Mhm.
pastored it for 12 years, and it grew from 30 to 300. We had a terrible split in the eighth year, and I never recovered from that. And it was not healthy enough to hand off. So after 12 years, it closed. And so I'm able to relate to where a lot of pastors are coming from, whereas there are so many consultants, if you will, that do ministry consulting who never worked in a church, or specifically
Mhm.
never worked in a small church, and so they don't,
Mhm.
don't relate. And so this is why I wanted to spend this time today, just letting folks know you're coming from a place where you're still in the midst of the fray, you're still in the battle. And that's why I think it helps that you are involved with this ministry. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Anchor and what it's about and how it can help other folks.
Yeah, so Anchored Hope Virtual Counseling. If you just Googled Anchored Hope, it'll show up there on your website. But
Anchor of Hope,
Anchored Hope,
Anchored Hope. Okay. Hmm.
Anchored Hope. Yep, Anchored Hope Virtual Counseling. I think I do have little card here. There's our logo
Hmm.
and
Okay, cool.
information. Yeah, if you go to our website, you see we have, like I said, 44 counselors on staff. All of us are, clinically informed biblical counselors. We all have formal biblical counseling training, as well as a variety of experience. You have others like me who are or have been pastors, uh, have been in ministry, are missionaries of some sort, or working in some sort of Christian organization. So a lot of people who, kind of to your point, have kind of been in the fire, know what it's like, but not all in the same exact part of the fire. So there's a
Sure.
lot of variation of experience there. And the way that the website is set up, when you go to our counselors page, you'll see a list of topics that we kind of specialize in, have experience in. So if you're having marital conflict, you click on the marital conflict, and it'll filter all the counselors who have experience in marital conflict. So whether it's some sort of depression, anxiety, OCD, some trauma related, an addiction of some kind. We have a whole list of topics that you can narrow it down in, or even if it's just more broad, spiritual direction.
Hmm.
We offer that type of counseling as well. So you can find that on the website. And again, it is completely virtual. So we use this platform, Zoom platform.
Hmm.
We have some flexibility to be able to use other platforms, but Zoom is our primary platform. And so you go to the website, you can just click on a counselor. If you just have a question, there's an inquiry box. You can send an inquiry, comes to us. We have emails. We consult and contact via email. And then we can also get more information and then set up a session. You can also go right to the website, click on what the topic is, set a date, set a time, and then it'll give you some intake forms to be able to talk more about that. And then we do, 30-minute, hour long, hour and a half long sessions on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis. Our calendars and schedules are able to be flexible. We have, like I said, 44 counselors to be able to talk with one another and share caseloads. We do monthly case reviews where we can kind of debrief what's going on, seek the counsel and wisdom of other counselors, others' experience, to be able to offer the best type of counseling to each person that we meet with. But everything that we do is confidential, so we're not giving any specific details, specific information. The conversations that we have with our counselees are safe, and they stay between us and the counselees. So it's a place where, if you don't have people you can talk to, especially, this is vital. Again, you get this for pastors who feel
Yep.
like, I can't talk about this with a person in my church, or even a person in my community if you're in a smaller area, because it'll just spread like wildfire. So you feel like you have no one to talk to.
Hmm.
Anchored Hope is huge. Again, I mentioned what happened to me in 2021. I just was fortunate enough to have a counseling professor that I could reach out. Most pastors in my
Nope.
position, they don't have that type of resource. They don't have that type of connection. And so Anchored Hope, we're not just for, the rural church or the small church, but man, we provide basically an entire pastoral counseling, Christian counseling, biblical counseling ministry of 44 counselors to the rural church that wouldn't normally be able to
Yep.
have that. And so we
Well,
believe, go
I
ahead.
have I have always said, and I even said this at the conference, one of the conferences we just did, where does a pastor go?
Hmm.
A pastor's hooked on porn. Who do you tell? You can't tell anybody in your
Hmm.
church. You can't tell your
Hmm.
spouse. In my lifetime, there's not been anywhere to reach out to. There's not been anyone. And then pastors really struggle with, this has got to be confidential, and so what we're actually been able to do with some of our other connections at 95 Network is help pastors find counselors in other states. And I do believe one of the greatest things that happened, obviously there was lots of devastation and issues because of the pandemic. But one of the great things we've
Hmm.
learned is how to do this. Just get on a Zoom call.
Hmm.
Would it be better for us to be having this conversation in person? Absolutely. But you're in upstate New York and I'm in South Carolina. I'm still got a barn to build, and lead a 95 network. And so there's lots going on. And so to be able to block out some time and to be able to talk to someone virtually, I just think it's huge. And that's why I wanted to
Hmm.
connect our folks with Anchored Hope because there's no excuses anymore. In my time, you
Hmm.
heard me tell the story. I think you were in when I told the story about going to the board member at my church when I was
Hmm.
pastoring. I go to the board member and I'm like, I'm crashing and burning here. I'm not having a moral failure, but I also know me enough to know that I'm going to do something stupid eventually because we're not equipped to handle all
Hmm.
that pressure. But at this point, I'm struggling. I'm mentally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. And I go to lunch with this board member, and I sit down with him, and I said, "Look, man, look, I need to talk today. I need, and we're friends. We hunt together. We do life together. I just want to share with you some things I'm feeling." And he puts his hand up in my face. He goes, "Stop, Pastor, stop." He says, "I can't hear this." He said, "My life is a disaster, and I need your life to be perfect. So please don't tell me." And I go, "Oh."
Hmm.
So I walked away going, well, I guess we are supposed to keep it all inside, or we are supposed to keep it
Hmm.
to ourselves. So the one time I did try to reach out, it didn't work. But today
Right.
we are removing those barriers. There's hope
Hmm.
and help for any pastor listening right now, no matter what you're working through, whether it's marriage issues or you have a secret addiction. Or you're just struggling. I mean, maybe
Hmm.
you're at the point. I mean, the whole time you're talking, I'm thinking about, man, I remember being so mad at my people because I couldn't get them to do anything. That
Hmm.
I would lead, I would do all the things that I was being taught to do, and it didn't work. And so obviously it got on inside of me, and I began to feel like a failure. So man, I'm so
Hmm.
super excited that you guys do this. What are there like preconditions for you to help somebody?
No, there's really no, if you're a pastor, you're in ministry, or you're not, you're a member of a church, you're a missionary. We meet with people worldwide. We meet with missionaries in Asia, Europe, Africa. So if you have internet connection, then you are able to meet with us at Anchored Hope. You can, like I said, go to the website and set up an appointment whenever works for your calendar. We, are able to meet. I met with a guy from Texas just before we jumped on this call this morning,
Mhm,
and we are trying, like you said, remove all those barriers.
mhm,
And if you are skeptical about this platform, virtual counseling,
mhm,
I get it. To Dale's point, even going into this, I had reservations because the season of doing virtual church was an unpleasant one for me. So I've recognized how difficult it is, for the nonverbal side of counseling,
mhm,
to be able to use this platform. But what I found is as I've, met with people, I've started to learn how to normalize this in a helpful way. And other people have talked about how, this really isn't as bad or as awkward as I thought it was going to be.
mhm.
I've had several counselors, or excuse me, counselees who have said that. And yeah, to Dale's point, I mean, good, better, and best has always been my terminology. It is good that we can do this, right? It's
Yes.
good that we have these platforms. Sure, it's better if we were able to do it in person, but realistically, if we weren't able to meet in person, it's still good that we can use
Mhm.
this platform to do it. And what's best is when we're in heaven and we don't even need this type of counseling because we're just with Jesus and we're
Yep.
worshiping him all day long. So that's the best. But until then, if good is available, we take it because if we only accept what is better, then we miss out on what is good. And
Yep.
so I want to encourage you, if a virtual platform is a reason for not reaching out for counseling, don't let that be an obstacle for you, because it is still good to be able to use this platform. And it's better than doing nothing, especially if you're hurting, especially if you feel alone, especially if you need help.
There's a lot of folks, their mindset is, well, if I just hang in here, it'll get better.
Mm,
If I just don't deal with this, it'll go away. And I'm just telling you, that is not true.
right.
And we talked about insecurity, and we did the conference together. And one of the things I see with insecure people is they spend so much time and energy, lots of emotional energy, trying to cover up where they're insecure. They wear themselves out. And Jesus
Hmm.
didn't intend for us to live this way. And one of the things
Hmm.
I don't understand we've missed, I don't know how we missed it, but one of the things we missed about just observing Jesus on the earth when he was doing ministry was he was always getting away to be with the Father. He was always withdrawing to replenish and build himself up. And we don't do that. We
Hmm.
just don't do that. And some of it's caught from the things that we learn from other pastors, and some of us even taught in our Christian education that you're supposed to be the sin eater. You're supposed to take this stuff on yourself, and you're not supposed to let anybody see any chink in your armor, and all that stuff has just destroyed us. And so, man, I am
Hmm.
so thrilled that you guys exist, that we can develop this strategic partnership where it's just we have another resource to hand people off to, because the fact is this. We've worked with some other resources too, and they're inundated. They're
Hmm.
overwhelmed with the amount of pastors
Yeah.
who are and ministries who begin to reach out. How are you guys doing as far as, are you overwhelmed as far as the response, or do you have capacity? How are you doing there?
Yeah, no, actually, I appreciate you saying that. We've leaned into 2024 being the year of partnerships, and we're really trying to push this year to partner with networks like 95 Network, organizations like Northeast Collaborative, and just local churches to try to, help unload some of that caseload that a lot of the in-person places have had to, take. There's several places that we have connections with and relationships with that they're like, man, our wait list is months out for people. And for us, we are fortunate with having 44 counselors. With, some of us do this full time, some of us do it part time, some of us are also in ministry or other types of work,
Mhm.
and so there's a lot of flexibility. We have a full open uh, wait time that doesn't exist. So it's, if you go on right now, you could get an appointment for tomorrow, if you were to
Wow.
go to our website. So there is no wait time at all
This
for
is
our
huge to
counselee
me,
for
because
counselors right
if we're
now.
going to reach out and encourage pastors to reach out for help, and then they reach out to somebody and go, oh, well, we've got a 3-month waiting list, that's
Hmm.
just double devastation. And so you have
Hmm.
capacity to take on folks right now. That's encouraging to me.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, we're super grateful for the opportunity that God has given us. And yeah, on the other side of it, whether if you are a pastor that you yourself needs to get counseling, or again, just someone to talk with, maybe unload some of the burdens that you feel like you're carrying, we are available and here for you. But if maybe you're a pastor of a church, or you're in a ministry and you have a bunch of people coming to you for counseling, or people who could use counseling, I would also encourage you to reach out to us. You can go to our website, give a general inquiry, or just you could find me on the website and send me an inquiry. I'd love to talk with you about partnerships as well. Or
Mhm.
we have one of my leaders in partnership of our team at Anchored Hope is Brian. He also can talk. Brian Walker can talk about partnerships as well, and we would love to be able to establish those relationships with local churches, where we can also maybe set up discounts for the people in your church to come with, to have counseling through Anchored Hope at a discounted rate for them, and the church can help offset some of those costs. And so we would love to do that. And our goal for this year is, by the end of this year, to grow a large enough caseload that we could, Lord willing, maybe even be able to offer missionaries in other parts of the world free missionary care through Anchored Hope. And so that's some of the goals that we're setting for this year. But we also need to have enough people coming into
Sure.
Anchored Hope. So we've seen rapid growth over the past few years, obviously with the virtual platform. And so we're excited. God is definitely, using us and working through us, and we want to just continue to ride that wave with the team that we have at Anchored Hope now, and I'm grateful to have gotten to jump on it at this time.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of support, and we're trying to bridge that gap for people who are just in places that are hard to reach or feel like you're on an island. There is help available for you, for your people as well. So.
Is it expensive? I wonder what if I call up today and I book it, what is the cost?
It is $100 for a session.
Okay. Every session is $100. Is there a time limit on that session?
We always do an hour and a half intake
Okay.
initial sessions. So the first session is always an hour and a half. You can pay for larger sessions permanently, but generally we do about an hour long session each time, 50 minutes to an hour. And we're not super rigid on time. Some people, will be, hey, I'm sorry, I gotta wrap up right now, I have another appointment. But generally, I approximate 50 minutes to an hour. I've gone a couple minutes past if we're in the middle of a conversation and I
Yeah.
have
Oops, time's
the
up.
flexibility. Yeah, exactly. Oh, thanks for bearing your heart,
Yeah.
and we're done. No.
We're done.
No. So that's our standard cost. We do have cost breakdown on the website as well for some of the nuances and things like that. But generally, it's $100 for that session.
Does
And again, if we
insurance
partner with churches,
is insurance covering any of this, or is it something insurance?
no, we don't currently have that set
Okay.
up at this point. It's something that's been talked about, but at this point we're not licensed. We're able to sit in this niche of clinically
Yes.
informed biblical counselor by doing that,
Yep.
and so we don't know if we want to compromise that to be able to accept insurances and things like that. So that's where we're at currently.
All right. So if I have someone listening now and they're going, hey, listen, I've been through this stuff. I've been through counseling. It really helped me. I don't currently, I'm doing good. I don't need help, but I want to help cover somebody. Is there a way people can give to you where it would offset the cost? So because I know rural pastors that have this mindset, and oftentimes I know the finances are tight, but what I have observed with working with churches is they'll still spend money where they want to spend it. And this is not an area where they'll spend money typically. They
Yeah,
won't
yeah.
focus on marital health or their pastor's counseling help. But when they fall apart, then they kick them to the curb. But if there's someone listening right now who says, listen, I don't need it, but I've got $1,000. I want to help offset costs. Can you guys handle that? Is that something that can be happen?
Yeah. So
Scholarshiping.
the person I mentioned earlier, Brian Walker, again, if you go to our website, click on the counselors tab, he's listed there. You could click on him and there's an inquiry box. He's the one who's kind of primarily overseeing partnerships. So he probably would be able to work with it if you're an individual, or again, you're part of a Christian organization, a church, or anything like that. You could contact him and he would love to see about working things out that way. So that would be the direction I'd point you if you want to help other people in that way, bless them in that way. But even what we'd encourage, if you are listening and you're kind of thinking about that, you can reach out to me. We'd love to just have you get the word out. That's
Yes.
really, a lot of people just don't know we exist. And what we've heard from pretty much all of our counselees is that they just wish they found out about us sooner.
Yep.
The cost can be an obstacle for some people, and we want to work with that where we can.
Mhm.
But really what we've found is it's been more so just people needing to know and find out that Anchored Hope is available. It's a ministry that's really been used by God to help care for people, both in ministry and just people who are trying to love God and go through life and have struggles. And so that's been more so if you're able to kind of get the word out there and let people know, hey, there's this organization that if you need counseling, you can go right now onto the website, and by tomorrow you can have an appointment set up for a biblical counselor. That's what we have found has been really helpful.
Well, I want to throw this out there. If you're listening right now, because again, I've been doing this a long time, and whenever there's a cost involved, it's like for some reason that's a barrier for churches or pastors or ministry leaders, and which they pay for everything else. So I don't understand really where that's coming from. But then there's this poverty mindset that says, I'm a pastor, I should get things for free. Well, how are Josh and these guys going to even be there? So anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But I will tell you this: if you want help and finances are a barrier, you reach out to us, and we'll do what we can to help you or connect you, or we'll find a way to get you the help you need. But just take advantage of this resource, man. Josh, I'm so glad that we connected, that I got to meet you at the conference. It's really cool to hear your story, and I love what you're doing at Anchored Hope. What we'll do is we will put in the show notes any links that you have mentioned that you want to have. We'll have those there. I want to put that book that you mentioned in the show notes as well. But if anyone needs help, how can they reach out to you? How can they connect with you, Josh?
Yeah, you can again go to website anchoredhope.co, and you can go to the counselors. My picture is on there. You can click there, and there's a little inquiry box. You send that, and it'll get to me that way. You can also always email me, jclink@biblicalcounseling.org. So you can always email me there as well.
And I'll put all that in the show notes as well. Man, thanks for your
Great.
time. It's been fun to talk to you. I mean, this is a serious subject, but it's also, I want folks to know there's help available. And so I'm thankful for you and Brian, all you guys, what you do there. And I'm hoping that through this podcast today, there'll be some folks reach out to connect with you and get the help they need.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. It's definitely, God brought us together at the conference, and I'm so thankful for, the way that God's used you, and the way that you're being used to help churches, pastors, ministries through what you do at the 95 Network. And it's been a treat to get to talk to you, get to know you, and get to know your story through the conference as well. I'll definitely shameless plug for the Soul Care Essentials and your book Stalled Out. I definitely would recommend those resources to you guys who are listening as well. So thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the 95 Podcast. We look forward to sharing another episode with you next week. In the meantime, visit our website at 95network.org. The website is loaded with great resources created for small and mid-sized church leaders. Until next time, have a great week.